Now once we get to 4, 5, and 6, now we have to remember that rule for multiplying and dividing. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, which means your coefficient is negative, then you have to flip your inequality sign. So on this first one, in order to solve it, I have to divide by negative 5. Since I'm dividing by a negative 5, my inequality sign is going to flip and be greater than or equal to. Then I simplify the other side as much as possible. In this case, I've got a negative over a negative, so it becomes positive, but I really can't do anything with the 14/5, so x is greater than or equal to 14/5. Number 5 here, there's actually two different ways you could solve this one. The first way is, if I get rid of that fraction, what would I do?
Times it by negative 4.
If I times it by negative 4 and I include the negative, I'm multiplying by a negative 4, which means I have to flip my sign. W is less than negative 44. That's the quickest way to solve it. Some people do it this way, just for an example, because it's perfectly legitimate to do. Is they say, oh, I got to multiply by the 4, and they just multiply by 4. Well, if I multiply by the 4, I'm not changing my sign. I would say negative W is greater than 44. However, then they have to get rid of that negative, so they end up having to divide by negative 1. Now I'm dividing by that negative. I have to flip my sign. And you can say either way I end up with the same answer. Both of them are perfectly legitimate things to do. This obviously was the shorter way to do it, if you remember to put the negative with your bottom number and just multiply by with it right away. So, one of the few cases you actually multiply by a negative to solve. Number 6, if we're going to solve that for z, we're going to divide by negative 4, right? You guys are so talkative. Again, I divided by a negative, so I have to flip my inequality sign. 20 divided by negative 4, that one comes out to a nice integer. Z is greater than negative 5.